Happy Wednesday, everybody. Dr. Dan Yachter, the chiropractor, for news, views, and weekly updates. So happy you have joined us. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into the content. We had a phenomenal masterclass last night. For those of you guys who were here, thank you for your great feedback. We were learning and growing and elevating together. So what I'm going to do this Wednesday segment, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick recap of all of the knowledge that we talked down last night regarding the brain. Fixing Your Broken Brain Masterclass. It was here last night, 6:30. Sorry you missed it if you were unable to be here. But a couple of things to make you feel better about yourself. One of the things you'll see is over the next couple of weeks, there'll be a series of 7 emails coming out, bringing down all of the content, kind of dripping it bite-sized chunks, as I always say, and you'll be able to see that content as the weeks go on, and it kind of recaps, re-summarizes, and repackages the content. So if you were here last night, it's a great review. You'll see the information from a bit of a different angle. If you were not here, you'll be able to see the content as well. But of course, nothing takes the place of being here. When you're submersed in a learning environment, it's a completely different experience. So next month, we got another master class, of course, coming around for getting close to 30 years. I've been doing these master classes. If you don't have one of these calendar cards I give out at the beginning of the year, 2025 master class schedule, we have on here coming up August 19th, building a titanium-like immune system, AKA raising a healthy drug-free family. So we talked down how to develop an immune system that's strong and able to defend you well. And you're going to learn all of the strategies, techniques, the philosophy that I use with my own family. How I raise an incredibly healthy family. Kids who've never had one medication in their body, never had one vaccine in their body, never had anything in their bodies except healthy things, healthy adjustments from birth. How do you raise a healthy drug-free family? We're going to talk about diet. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about supplements. We're going to talk about the spine. We're going to be talking about all the lifestyle impacts that can really affect the trajectory of a child's health, of a family's health. So make sure you put that on your calendars. We want you here. You are welcome, whether you're an active patient, inactive patient, or just come as a guest in the community. There's no charge. And again, August 19th, building a titanium-like immune system right there. Close to 30 years, I've been doing these master classes, presenting them, and we teach them every month. I teach them every month. And again, thank you to all attendees. I don't know how many we had here last night. I don't know, maybe close to 60 people. And we thank all of the patients who brought guests with them. Keep coming, keep learning, keep growing. So I'm going to go ahead and get into a recap of all the information that we covered. We talked about last night the lifestyle influences, that they are far superior than genetics. One of the things I did not talk about last night were the ApoE3, ApoE4 genes that medical science hangs its hat on. We didn't focus on genes. We focused on lifestyle, epigenetics, the impact, the influence that the way we live, the way we move, eat, breathe, think, all these different things, how they impact our brain disease risk profile. We talked about neurogenesis, the brain's ability to not only grow new neurons, but strengthen old ones. Decades ago in medical science, they thought that growing new brain cells or even strengthening old ones was impossible, that whatever you're born with, then that's it. That's what you get. And that's what you live with. And once they die in the central nervous system. But that's not true. We talked about the nervous system and spine. We talked about nutrition. We talked about oxygenation, movement, stress management, the impact of sleep, good sleep on your stress resiliency and constant and never-ending improvement. We talked about that there are over 100 types and subtypes of dementia. Alzheimer's making up 80% of it. but dementia is a massive problem, and Alzheimer's disease being the most severe and lethal form of dementia. 1 in 9 seniors over the age of 65 has Alzheimer's disease. We talked about the way brain diseases, dementia, Alzheimer's form. We talked about the medications that actually create brain disease, that accelerate brain disease. The medications that are out right now that do zero to stop the formation of brain disease, they do zero to stop brain disease, and they do minimal to slow it down. Billion-dollar drugs. We talked about lifestyle integration, lifestyle activities, things you can do day by day that have a radical effect on your odds of ever developing a brain disease, including Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, neurological diseases. And if not stopping or radically decreasing risk of ever developing one, the lifestyle activities, which can radically slow down your risk of ever getting these things. So if you are going to get them, radically decreases the likelihood that they're going to come around anytime soon. So again, we talked about some really, really important things: the spine's influence, cerebral spinal fluid, the glymphatic system, how at night, primarily while you're sleeping, the lymphatic system of the brain, the gutter system or the cleansing system known as the glymphatic system of the brain, how it's carrying out waste, bringing nutrition in, how it's filtering things out, how it's keeping your brain healthy, and ways to keep that glymphatic system working at its best. We talked about the GI system, the second brain, the gut, and how important it is to have a healthy gut if you want a healthy brain. We talked about the GI mapping, which we talked about last month. We got into the foods, the top foods to keep your brain healthy. We talked about the foods that create inflammation, the two major concepts that we covered last night: how to decrease brain inflammation, which is what really sets the stage for the growth and development of brain diseases. So decreasing brain inflammation and increasing something known as BDNF, Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor, basically a brain protein, which is like Miracle-Gro for the brain. How do you decrease brain inflammation? How do you increase the brain fertilizer known as BDNF? No drug can increase it. No drug can really influence it. Only lifestyle changes. So we talked about all the foods, supplements that can decrease brain inflammation and increase this growth hormone for the brain. Okay, so your Miracle-Gro, how do you increase this BDNF? We talked quite a bit about it. The foods, we talked about coffee. You were here last night. Whether coffee is good or bad for your brain. Okay, so we got into coffee, believe it or not. Talked about statins, talked about medication. We talked about the importance of taking a high quality EPA, fish oil, every day. How important it is to feed like with like, good fats. What fats are the good fats? The brain's comprised of well beyond 60% fat. And so if you want to keep that fat healthy, you want to keep your brain healthy, you got to feed like with like, good healthy fats, monounsaturated fats. Fish, we talked about an EPA supplement. Okay, the EPA and the DHA, the eicosapentaenoic acid, the docosahexaenoic acid. These are DHA and EPA, and very important, as DHA makes up a good amount of the membranes of the neurons, the brain cells of your brain. So very important. We talked about that. We talked about just like people getting their vitamin D level tested. You want to know your vitamin D level. You want to know your blood markers. You want to know your blood sugar markers, your hemoglobin A1C, your insulin. You also want to know your O3 index. What is the status of your cell membranes, your brain cell membranes? And really what that comes down to is that the health of the brain cells are primarily determined by the O3 index. We measure how much of your brain cells, or how much of your red blood cells really is what we're measuring, is comprised of good fat, DHA, EPA. So we measure that. We talked about the omega-3 index basic test. How do we know where you're at? You want to be between 8 and 12%. Most people are 2-3% at most. How do you actually know how much fish oil to take? How do you get it up into a good range? And how do you keep it there for great long-term brain health? So again, talked about the food destroyers, talked about the baker's dozen of blood markers. When you go to get your annual panels, which markers do you want to be able to work on and look at and track and make sure your doctor orders for you? Include these on your blood markers or your blood panels year over year. They're known as harbingers of either good or bad things to come. Are you headed for brain damage? Are you headed for dementia? Are you headed for Alzheimer's dementia? Harbingers of things to come. What are the most important markers to look at? We talked about the major markers of brain inflammation. How do you know if you have elevated levels of body and brain inflammation? So we talked about the most important blood markers last night. If you were here, you know which blood markers they are, and it's very important that you track these. If you were not here but are an active patient who regularly comes, just not last night, then you know where to go. All of the slides, all of the information is stored on my website. All you need is the password to get into the backside of the website where you can download all of the slides. So you want to get a hold of these. If you want to get the weekly, really every few days, the broken down version of the content of the masterclass, and make sure if you're not already on our email list that you get on the email list so you can get all that content. We talked about the 4 most important brain supplements. What are they? What do they do for the brain? And these 4 all increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is miracle growth for the brain cells, all decrease inflammation, and all keep your body and brain moving in the right direction. Talked about exercise, sauna, great movement, stress management, and so much more. Man, last night was a great one. The feedback I got was awesome. And of course, there'll be more to come. It's my favorite masterclass to teach, the brain one. And it's very near and dear to my own heart because I've watched brain disease, dementia take a hold of family members, and just heartbreaking. So again, make sure if you are not on our email list, you can message me and say, hey, I'm not getting your emails. Here's my email. Put me on the list. You're not going to get spammed. You're not going to get overloaded with stuff that you don't need. You're just going to get the pure raw content that we give out at the master classes. So make sure you get that. If you're not part of our Facebook group yet, each Wednesday, all the content that I deliver to you, it's all stored in our private group. So if you want access to it, ask to be granted that access. The Facebook group is My Family, My Mission. My Family, My Mission. So again, mark your calendars, August 19th, Building a Titanium Immune System, also known as How to Raise a Healthy, Drug-Free Family. I appreciate you greatly, as always, for joining me each and every Wednesday. And in the meantime, everybody have a great day. Dr. Dan Yachter signing off. God bless.